I have 10 siblings. We are all biological. We are all very close in age. We all have a very good relationship with each other and with our parents. And so I'm going to share a few things that my parents did to help that happen, because I've seen quite a bit of discourse on here about big families and how some people think it's unhealthy to have a lot of kids, or that you cannot possibly meet their emotional needs, or that you can't have a relationship with all of them, and that simply is not true. So I'm here to debunk those lies. When I was around 6 years old, my dad sat all of us down. He gave us each a paper, and we opened it up, and it said one day of the week had been designated to us specifically. So he took one day out of the week to give to each of us. My day was Thursday, my sister was on Friday, my brother's was on Monday, I think. So we each had a day of the week, and that was our special time to spend with my dad. And on our day of the week, he would take us to get ice cream or a milkshake, or we would have a movie night, or we would go out to lunch with him, or we would go to a book fair, or do something fun that was just us. Just the two of us. And my mom would do these things too, like she would take us out with her all the time, but my dad was very intentional about spending one-on-one time with each of his kids, and that setup of one day a week worked really well. We loved it. Like I looked forward to Thursdays every single week, and sometimes still I will think of Thursday as like a better day than other days, because it was just ingrained in my brain, like that's my time that I get to spend with Dad. And I love that. We all love that. That worked pretty well until he had more kids than days in the week. And so once that happened, there obviously, when you have more kids than days, you just can't spend a whole day intentionally setting aside time for one child. So sometimes then we would do things in groups. And so he would take all of the girls out at once, or he would take all of the boys out at once, or maybe they would watch a football game, or we would have a girls' movie night with Dad by ourselves. We would do things that were super intentional. Another thing that he did is that he would incentivize us to read. So we would do things like, you guys remember when Pizza Hut used to incentivize kids for reading? I think they might still do that, but that was one of the highlights of my life. We loved doing that, and we would do it as a family, tally up all of our books, and then we would all go get pizza together. We loved doing that, and it felt like it really helped us to bond. We would read books at night before we went to bed. He was very intentional about reading real books, like classic literature books, not just like comics and stuff. We would read a bunch of Calvin and Hobbes too, but he was very intentional about real books. Another thing he did was that he would incentivize us to read our Bible by making it fun and turning it into a game. And so we would have Bible Bee almost every morning for a long time. When we were kids, we would do Bible Bee, and this was like, we would take a proverb of the day, because there's 31 proverbs, 31 days in a month mostly, and we would read the proverb of the day, and it would be girls versus boys, and we would have a competition, and he would read a verse and leave a blank, and we would have to fill in the blank, and it was like a spelling bee but with the Bible. And this not only helped us to create bonds with each other and with our parents, but also to read the Bible more and gain a lot of wisdom from reading the Proverbs. And I think it made a huge impact, and I still have a lot of those Proverbs retained in my mind because of him doing that game with us, even though at the time we didn't think it was going to actually impact us, and it did impact us a lot. Other things he did is that every single night when I was growing up, almost without fail, without missing one, it was like if he missed, it was because he was out of town. Every single night he would come up and he would pray with us and tuck us into bed, so that we would know that he cared about us and that he wanted to spend intentional time with us. So even if he wasn't able to spend a lot of one-on-one time with us, because he was working a lot, like my dad worked from home a lot, so even if he wasn't able to spend that individual time with us, he would still come up and not only pray with us, but usually he would tell us a story. He would come up with tons of stories, had tons of different characters, and he still does this for my younger siblings. My youngest brother just turned 8 in May, and so the oldest is going to be 29 this year, and the youngest is 8. So there's quite a gap between the oldest and the youngest, but we're all close in age in between. There are no twins or anything, by the way. Another thing my dad does is every time he texts me or calls me, he answers the phone or starts his message with, "Hey love," or "Hey pretty girl," or "Hey princess," or "Hey Queenie." That was always his nickname for me growing up, was Queenie. And so he always just puts intentional little compliments in there to like let me feel like, hey, I love you, and I think you're beautiful. The way that my dad speaks to me has set a very high standard for what I expect from men, and I think that's exactly how it should be, because I've never had a guy talk to me the way that my dad does, and that's in the best way possible. So you're gonna have to straighten up, boys. There are plenty more things that I'm sweating sitting in my car, so if you want to hear more, then let me know. But yeah, these are things that my dad did to be intentional with us, and we all turned out great. So there's nothing wrong with having a bunch of kids.